Here we are.
You know, that moment on the plane, everyone just sitting there.
We're now live.
Yes. Hello and welcome to a fantastic new live. And I'm very excited to be here with four people that I deeply admire, but as well been working for a while. So my name is Dinis Guarda, and I am the CEO and founder of Ztudium Group that produces citiesabc.com and Open Business Council. And I'm as well an advisor to BTCU, that is the sponsor of this live. And I'm very excited to be here to discuss one key thing that I think is touching all the world by storm, that is all the NFT and everything that is happening with NFTs. And this live is NFTs Business. And I think it's a very good title, goes straight to the point. And I want to start by why this is so important. And as a small context as well about my famous guests, I want to contextualize. So I will start just as small notes before we go to the presentation. So NFTs is right now a massive multi-billion dollars ecosystem. And I would say that the most important thing when we talk about NFTs is that NFTs are right now definitely the first mainstream effective case study of blockchain that is touching everyone 360. Although people probably look more about the NFTs because of the art explosion and the Beeple $69 million sale. But the NFTs are, well, non-fungible tokens, but as well, they are a technology that certificates authenticity as a first step. So as a new digital certification of authenticity is not different from buying a signed, John Lennon poster or a signed book from the Lord of Rings or something like that. So in the end of the day, when you buy a property of that value, you know that you have a collective with you, but you need to make sure that the book is real, that the painting is correct. If you buy a Picasso, in this case, the NFT is doing that on the digital world that we're living in. And especially as everything in the economy becomes digital, we are just in the beginning. So the NFTs are going to be becoming increasingly important for everything, from property, which is going to be probably one of the biggest industries benefiting from the NFTs, of course, to art, music, and film, which is creating new streams of revenues for people. But it's interesting as well because the NFTs have different components. So there's the certification of authenticity. There's the certificate part of the trading and the ownership of something that you buy. And then the third thing is that you can trade it. You can buy and sell it. But it's different from a token, it's different from an ICO, and it's different from general crypto. Because in the end of the day, crypto is based on a speculation, like any stock. Here, we're talking about a slightly different way. So that's what we're going to be talking today. And I'm excited to welcome my famous guest speakers. They will be talking a bit about this in different areas. So I will be just listing the speakers that we have here, which is a great global as well footprint network. So we have Eric Ma joining us from Asia. That is the CEO of BTCU and former community manager of CoinMarketCap, of course, one of the biggest platforms in the world. We have Patrick Tan, that is one of the directors and as well the CEO and general counsel of Novum Alpha, that is a fund based in Singapore that has been trading crypto, but as well working with the Singapore government and so forth. Then from India, we have Prashant Surna Jain, that is founder of Snapper Blockchain Technologies and Innovation, and as well is involved in a crypto exchange in India that is going to talk about that. And then last but not least, Javed Khattak, that is a dear friend and as well business consultant and award-winning CFO, and as well the CEO and founder of Zisk Properties, which is a trading FCA licensed company in the UK that has been buying and selling small parts of property in locations like London, but as well around the world. So this is quite a diverse panel that touches the different areas, and as well that we're going to be touching how this is changing the world we're living. And I think just some numbers before we go on this, because I think it's interesting. So if you look right now in terms of the NFT marketplace, so I mentioned, I think especially when it goes to what is happening with the market. So we have around probably 50 platforms of NFTs around the world. whereas OpenSea and Nifty Gateway are probably the biggest, but we have Super Rare and we have a lot of others. Actually, we are going to launch as well one NFT marketplace on citiesabc.com in a near future. But what is interesting is that all these platforms are creating the next marketplaces for trading and investment and for assets. And I want to just use a quote from Gary Vaynerchuk, which is a mainstream guy of social media, but is really very excited about this, that he says that NFTs are like the Amazon of the next stage of the internet. So because we can buy and sell anything with that. And as well, the name is quite confusing, non-fungible tokens. But in the end of the day, I would say that is the first stage of the internet of trust that Don Tapscott and his son wrote in the book, where actually the internet is going to have a digital certificate. At the moment, if you go and buy something in the internet, we might buy a fake, or you might be spammed, or even might be dealing with someone that is not the real person. For instance, I have a lot of people impersonating me, unfortunately, on social media. I had actually related some people that actually pay for things that it was not me, but some spammers. And this is a big thing right now. And of course, the major global players of digital are missing this. So I want to go back to our speakers. I would like them to introduce themselves because they have fantastic CVs and at least a short introduction. And then we go and kick off with the panel. So Eric, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Everyone, hi. My name is Eric. I am the CEO of BTCU. Very happy to be here. Thank you, Dinis, for inviting me. And we're glad to be sponsoring this event as well. I started in the blockchain industry about 5 years ago and started with a small blockchain startup, which was kind of based on exercise, and it was based on the Ethereum blockchain. And from there, I was able to have an opportunity to join the CoinMarketCap team, the core team in the US. And so when I joined CoinMarketCap as the global community manager, I was able to travel a lot and to really gain exposure to what some of the things that blockchain had to offer. So taking part in a lot of offline events at conferences and being able to get on stage to discuss the exciting things CoinMarketCap was doing. As the front page of cryptocurrencies at the time, it was I had a lot of access to things that a lot of other people didn't have. So it was a lot easier for me to do business development as well as do partnerships, work on partnerships, and also just basically create new products for the cryptocurrency industry. About shortly after CoinMarketCap, I joined an exchange, and I try to get a better understanding of the exchange industry. So I kind of looked at the different scales of cryptocurrency and led me to want to understand more about how exchanges work. And so after about a year of that, which was about enough, I left and joined BTCU, the project. Super exciting, and I'll talk about a little bit about BTCU later. But so far, that's about me. Right now I'm based out of Taiwan. Originally, I'm from New York, and just right now, just kind of waiting out the COVID situation, and hope this. I was just talking to Javed earlier about this COVID situation. Just everyone wishes it's over so we can kind of get back to life and get back to prosperity and join these offline events. That's we're also, I think meeting people face to face and doing business face to face is so different than doing something on Zoom or on a call. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to tonight.
Oh, completely. And I think you're right about that. It's really great, first of all, to see faces in all this craziness around everything that is happening around the world still. I know that in India in particular is still hardcore, but in a lot of other places. But in the end of the day, we have this great opportunity to talk ideas. And I think I'm quite excited to touch both, Eric, with you about CoinMarketCap, which is still one of the leading centers of the blockchain ecosystem of crypto, but as well, of course, what you guys are doing with BTCU. So let's go to the next one. So Patrick, you're based in Singapore. Give us a bit of overview about you, Novo Alpha, and what you guys are doing. You're doing fantastic work over there as well.
Hi, everybody. Wherever you're tuning into us from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for taking the time out, your precious time out, to just join us for a quick discussion about NFTs. A little bit of background about Novum Alpha, which is the company I work for. We are basically a quantitative trading fund. We are launching our first maiden fund that's going to be completely regulated, and it's going to be a capital market services license fund only for institutional accredited investors. And we're looking to be launching that in June of this year. Up to this point in time, we've been running for the last 4 to 5 years, mainly running managed accounts for clients. And the reason for that really is because, and which is why it's good that we're having this discussion tonight, is that the fund services industry hasn't quite caught up with some of the things that we've been doing. So up to fairly recently, it wasn't even really possible to run a lot of our strategies within a regulated environment. It's something we've been trying to do for the last 3 years. I know that regulation, when it comes to regulation, it's a tricky discussion, especially amongst crypto purists. I bought my first Bitcoin around 2012, so I know what it's like not to have regulation. I've been hacked before. I've got my email hacked where people try to steal the Bitcoin in my exchange wallet with Coinbase, and so I've always appreciated the decentralized nature of crypto, and at the same time, I've also, of course, appreciated regulation as well. And there is a reason why we do need some degree of regulation in the markets. So that's in a nutshell what Novum Alpha is. We provide clients, depending on their size, we provide them with bespoke solutions which give them exposure to the crypto markets, but generally we are market neutral. The bulk of our clients are looking for basically fiat currency based returns. I don't judge. Some of clients, of course, are looking to expand their BTCs, and we do cater for that as well. So and that's what we do out of Singapore, and we have got trading desks in London and Hong Kong as well. So yeah, thanks, Dinis, for the invitation. Always a pleasure. It's great attending your panels. They're always fascinating people that I can have a chat with, and who wouldn't want that?
No, my pleasure. It's great to have all this diversity. And I know that you guys have been doing fantastic work, both, like you mentioned, on the decentralized and centralized, which is very important to bridge that, because I think when it comes to everything happening in terms of NFTs and blockchain, there's so much stuff happening, but there's a lot of challenges as well. And especially in the last weeks, we've been having the challenges coming. But I think it's good as well, because sometimes people think this is all a bubble. And I think it's good that we have sound basis. So I'll pass to Prashant Surna, that is joining us from India. And I know that India is going through a big issues with crypto and everything related to this, although it's quite open to blockchain, but the crypto is having a lot of challenges. So I would like for you to introduce yourself and give a bit of context. You are mute, sorry.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much, Dinis, and for inviting me to such amazing event and with such amazing panelists. So I'm quite young. I started my tech journey maybe when I was like 14 years old, started with an AI, had a successful exit. And then it was in 2015, mid 2016, I actually moved into crypto and blockchain. So I was introduced, by like Charlie Lee and other guys over a poker game in Hong Kong. And they told me that, okay, I know something, which you could just move like millions of dollars just by paying like a fraction of cost. I said, oh, okay, wow, it sounds really cool. And then I started to deep dive more, started seeing like a scam, like overall blockchain to me. But I ended up putting everything I've got from my exit buying cryptos. And then moving forward, I realized that, the technology behind cryptos and the blockchain can actually solve a lot of problems related to e-governance, a lot of problems related to supply chain, a lot of problems related to banking. I mean, imagine if we could move money without any banks or without any intermediaries. The kind of ecosystem or the internet it's creating is like internet of value. I mean, today everything we use internet, all the information and everything, whatever we share is data. It's value, right? We are actually not moving any physical money, but we are moving the information or some keys or authorization that, okay, I have this much money in my digital world and I'm just moving it. But if we understand at a very deep level, all this digital data, whatever we are moving, does not have any accountability, any auditability, or any of these things. I mean, these data, whatever we use, I mean, our value is completely dependent on some centralized bodies like bank, Facebook, or whatever platforms or Google we are using. And one of the amazing ways to own it is like blockchain. I realized this fact, moved, starting an enterprise blockchain company in 2017, also turned into a, angel investor, crypto investor, trying to invest in some early stage emerging ideas, and, seeing how we can actually, create this internet of value. Because I feel that, I think with internet and with blockchain, I mean, the potential of, creating the money and the creating the value out of internet in a decentralized way is much massive. And I think it would possibly solve all the third world problems, like problems in Africa, Zimbabwe, wherever we are, like, and, give access people to open, neutral, decentralized version of internet. So I'm like a crazy entrepreneur who likes to take risk, build some new stuff, and always excited about technology.
Fantastic. And I know that, Prashant, you're quite young and you achieved some great benchmarks. And I think it's really great as well to see someone that is making the bridges that you're doing. And as well, especially in India, where all these areas of crypto have been kind of in and out, so let's put it that way. Although there's a massive market for trading there. So last but not least, so Javed, you have a very diverse background, both in the city of London, but as well working with the leading corporations, and now as well as an entrepreneur building something cutting edge in the property market, but as well working a lot in financial and fintech. Can you give us a bit of a overview about you?
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dinis. And like everybody else has mentioned, pleased to be here. Dinis is a dear friend, and I've known him for many years now, working and side by side on different projects. So a little bit of background about me. Started off in the corporate world with FTSE 100 type of clients. So GlaxoSmithKline, HSBC, Thomson Reuters, Marks and Spencers. Initially as an actuarial consultant. So I'm a fellow of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries here in the UK. And I was leading funds of over £6 billion per client type of a deal. Then moved on into management consulting. Again, kind of similarly large clients. Led a project of AML KYC offering, first of a kind, by Thomson Reuters, $125 million investment. So that was fun. But since then, I got an opportunity to join a startup where Dinis was the co-founder and CEO, and that's how I was introduced to him, and joined it as a CFO, had a blast, and haven't looked back. So, since continued to stay in the startup and SME space, advising various different startups, can now consider myself a serial entrepreneur with a property investment platform, which is FCA registered. That's called This Properties. It offers fractional property investments, and properties could be anywhere in the world, and investors could be anywhere in the world as well. And we are, like Dinis mentioned earlier, we are looking at partnering with BTCU to consider how we can convert that piece into the NFT and crypto side to, again, utilize technology and make access to investments easier for the wider, kind of public, and so on and so forth. Other than that, I'm also involved in various other startups, various other businesses, ventures, from wellness, neuroscience-based, kind of products, through to finance, through to fintech. I've got a technology company as well that develops software and digital marketing, and so on and so forth. So really enjoy and love, I believe, the startup space, primarily because we use technology and innovation to make lives easier for ourselves and everybody else.
Fantastic. So I think this is the panel that we have here. So 4 global experts in both the areas, transversal to everything that touches this. So let's do NFTs, the business of NFTs. So just a couple of notes, and then I'll pass the word to all of you, because you have a lot of stuff to say and a lot of expertise on this. So just some notes that I think are important. So NFTs, in one end, is a technology certification, point 1, is a new digital certificate of authenticity and digital assets, is as well an IP part that can be owned, and they can actually have multiple shares of ownership, and you can have revenues and legal implications around the NFTs, is a collective, is a marketplace empowerment for e-commerce, but as well anything possible, is a creative industry empowerment for art, music, and film. It's an impact massive, especially in supply chain, property and real estate and insurance. It's big for fashion industry, and it has a lot of different areas. So I want to share one screen shortly, because I think it's important to understand the different versatility of NFTs, because I think one of the things that we always forget is to understand how this is not just about the trading part. Okay, so I'll just share one shortly screen that is very important for me, just for the audience, because I think when we speak about these things, there's always a tendency for us to stay just in one area or two. So if you look at, and I hope you can see my screen. So we have NFTs as something that can be used for virtual worlds, for collectives, for sports, for precious assets, for digital assets, for coaching and education. For instance, if you do a course, you can get a certification, for property, and of course for arts, music, and film, which is probably the most well-known part of the NFTs as we speak now. So just on this part of the arts, music, and film, we're talking already about an industry that is passing the $2 billion between the different tokens and different companies involved. In terms of sales, we talk about $500 to $1 billion of sales. But if you look at the collective special on sports, it's passing much of this, because there's a couple of companies that are already valuations much bigger than just this. So I want to touch this because this is particularly important from a perspective of understanding how we can actually look at these things, but as well the diversity and variety of the NFTs. And although it is in the beginning, it's a new industry, I would say that this is, like I mentioned before, the first stage of the blockchain industry, but it's as well a great opportunity for any investor, but as well for people, for new entrepreneurs, because the thing that I think it's particularly different here is that the NFT highlights and creates a new solution that anyone can use to sell or promote a product, and the product online. And as at the moment as we speak, most of the digital economy that we are living is becoming increasingly online. Of course, we're going to need even a certificate. We have already certificates for everything, but most of the certificates are made of paper. So as we put this together, the companies that will create the better technology, the better solutions, will become the next Googles and the next Facebooks. And the challenge is that Facebook and Google are not leading on this. None of the Silicon Valley or even the Chinese players are leading on this. So the opportunities are massive, and they can create a huge disruption, because if you can actually get a couple of marketplaces, you can create a lot of solutions. But like Prashant mentioned, you can actually as well create a lot of solutions for emerging markets, because in the end of the day, if you digitize in the entire country, you can create a certification for everyone. So, but as well, there's a huge component of trading and investment, and the component of technology. So the trading is more in normal e-commerce. You buy and sell something, and you have a certification of that. So you can have the asset of that, for instance, if it's an art piece or not. So these are the different things. But the business is massive, because I would say that everything, and like Gary Vaynerchuk mentioned, everything will become certified digital. Everything. All the economy, all of us will be digital and certified. So as you can imagine, the world economy is around $80 trillion. And Patrick has more numbers than me. But from the $80 trillion of GDP, we have around speculation of around $500 trillion. If you look at the capital markets trading, $500 trillion or even more, because at a certain point, no one knows where this finishes and starts. So I think the point right now is that the good thing about the NFTs that I like particularly is that it's not about speculation. When you buy an NFT, you're buying something that you own. Okay, it's not like a token. And I have nothing against tokens, by the way. I'm a crypto and the stock market guy. But I'm saying that you own something. So that's a big difference. When you own something, it's yours. So that takes a bit of the risks that you have on the crypto and in the stocks and everything else. But you are as well mostly just buying and trading something. So this is, for me, the biggest thing that makes the business of NFT a big, big thing. And I think even people don't get it. I think they'll get it because in the end of the day, they don't care about the name. NFTs is a terrible name. But at the same time, it's just the solution that matters. And it's the solutions that make the economy. So I want to pass to the word, and after this small introduction, this is not just, it's about all of you guys speaking. You have all expertise. So Eric, you have a great experience. First of all, being in the biggest website of crypto, like the I would say the open door of crypto, that is CoinMarketCap? And do you have experience of seeing the thousands of tokens that are there, but do you have as well experience in terms of digitizing and the challenge that the community went through? And now with BTCU, you guys are building a fantastic solution in terms of NFT technology that can actually be used, in this case, the first case study, with property. So, and a lot of things that you're trying to do with marketplace. So can you give us a bit of context about BTCU, what you're trying to do, and as well your role, and as well a bit of background on the industry?
Absolutely. BTCU, we are actually a fork of BTC, and but beyond that, we're not just another, Bitcoin Cash or anything like that. We are a third generation technology of BTC. So all the shortcomings of all of the first and second generation cryptocurrencies, we combined into one platform, and that's BTCU. And some of the problems that we try to solve is some of the topics that are actually quite in discussion these days. One of the things that Elon Musk had talked about just last week about the power consumption of mining of BTC, for instance, through the proof of work algorithm. That is something that we thought of way ahead and prepared for, and we have incorporated into BTCU. So through the ultimatum proof of stake consensus algorithm, we're able to mine a lot more efficiently, very, very little power. So with the recent, announcement in China about the ban of mining, I think part of the decision there was possibly because of the consumption of power, of course, but also, of course, their own digital currency is part of the plan, the digital yuan, and trying to uplift that. And so they're trying to suppress, the decentralized cryptocurrencies, and they rather everyone use their centralized. But not to get too deep into that, we have a solution for the power consumption of mining of BTCU and other cryptocurrencies. So the second solution is the smart contract capability. So as we know, BTC is really just become a store of value. It's a digital gold 2.0, a lot of people call it. And it doesn't really do much. You can't even really use it as an e-payment system. So it's not the most efficient. It's hard to scale. So as a part of that, we have incorporated the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, and we're able to do smart contracts on BTCU using Solidity. And the speeds and transactions on BTCU is thousands of times faster than BTC. And the third solution we have is the problem of privacy. So a lot of these tokens and coins out there, all these transactions are not anonymous. So we can actually track and see exactly what everyone is doing. So we have the zero coin protocol that we have incorporated into BTCU, making the optional, by the way, you can turn on and off anonymous transactions on the BTCU blockchain. And I think that is something that is very important for the future, especially when we need the privacy for our financial data. So in addition to that, we have solutions. We wanted the whole package of one-stop kind of a blockchain. We have wallets. We have our own BTCU wallet, which is secure, it's convenient, user-friendly. It's a wallet that allows you to receive, send, and store your cryptocurrencies. And excuse me. And also, we're creating a marketplace. Overall, the first three solutions I mentioned and the wallet, all that is really to create a marketplace, an entire ecosystem on the Bitcoin Ultimatum blockchain, which allow people to do all sorts of stuff. And part of it will be the NFTs that we talked about and the partnerships that we'll build on that. But right now, we already have other projects on BTCU, such as USD Reserve, USDR, which is a one-to-one stable coin backed by gold. and they chose BTCU because of our transaction speeds, our privacy, as well as the ease of use for programmability. And they chose BTCU. So very proud to partner with USDR. And also, we already have a marketplace where people can buy goods, electronic goods, all sorts of goods from AliExpress, Amazon, eBay, and other online stores directly from the BTCU marketplace without having to deal with conversions, commissions, and other exchanges. So that's already a marketplace that we're producing now. But the different ecosystems and different marketplaces that'll be on the BTCU blockchain will be limitless. And we'll be talking about the NFT partnerships and the ecosystem that we are going to be creating with the partnership of Zisk Properties.
Amazing. So I think there's a lot of things in what you said, and I think, like you mentioned, there's a component of the technology, there's a component of the marketplace, and the marketplace is the most important thing. So if you go back to the beginning of the internet, it's everything about the marketplace. In the end of the day, people were afraid of doing trading online, but they start using, and initially it's always a bit of the kind of the porno and the crime that uses these things, but then it becomes mainstream and it becomes used by everyone in the planet. So
exactly.
I think so.
Can I fill in on that a little bit?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I remember as a kid in the beginning of the internet, it was just a static Web 1.0 was just a static page that nobody really knew how to use. You just go to a page. You have the only way before even hyperlinks. The only way to go to a website is if you knew the address. And when you got there, it's just information. It wasn't too exciting. And then after they developed the hyperlink, Web 2.0, people started to develop these ecosystems and the marketplaces you're talking about, Dinis. And but when they got there, they didn't know what to do. How do I pay? There's no way to pay and get this stuff that they see they want to purchase, whether it's services or products. And, in the beginning, like credit cards, they wanted nothing to do with the internet. And, they thought it was a scam. They thought it was sketchy, just like people think of blockchain today. But blockchain eventually in Web 3.0 will become the mainstream. So just wanted to add that just to give people some context of how blockchain will fit into the internet.
I would say it's already mainstream. I completely subscribe with you, because I think the point right now is that, it's funny that PayPal was in the beginning of the internet, and what is kind of awkward is that they're leading as well the crypto world, because they were one of the first major global corporations to incorporate as well crypto payments. And I think that makes a difference as well, because I would expect probably another big startup to lead this, but it was actually one of the biggest companies in the world. And that shows as well that things are already going mainstream. So Patrick, passing to you. And of course, you have a background in trading that makes the bridge between traditional trading and crypto trading, which is quite unique. But as well, I know that you work with Novel Alpha, with the government of Singapore. You've been working a lot of projects. So you are actually, and I think Singapore is quite unique on that, because you guys are probably the only country or one of the few countries in the world where actually you are taking serious the innovation about blockchain and crypto and the conventional trading. And I think the regulation has been going through that. But when it comes to NFTs and trading, which is the purpose of today, how do you see this, especially from someone that has been trading most of and as well a professional trader and investor as well?
Yeah, hi. When it comes to NFTs, I have to say that, in the crypto space, there is a spectrum. So of course, you've got your guys, your family offices, guys who are just getting their toes wet with crypto. They only look at Bitcoin. They're even blind to things like Ether. Ether doesn't exist for them because, as far as they're concerned, that's too speculative. And then if you talk to them, and then if you go down that spectrum, and then you get to DeFi, and then you're on the lunatic fringe already. And then when you talk about NFTs, you've crossed that fringe, and now you are a full-blown lunatic. So when it comes to professional investors, that's the spectrum. I'm going to be very honest with you. So when you look at NFTs and you look at the trade for them. And despite them being on the lunatic fringe when it comes to the investment horizon, well, not even on the lunatic fringe, when going full blown crazy, when it comes to like you've got auction houses like Christie's, Sotheby's, who are actually auctioning of these digital art pieces, and they're making huge amounts of money. But oftentimes people go like, hey, Pat, didn't you hear that the Beeple, it got sold at auction for 69.3 million? I said yes, but did you know that was paid for in Ether? Oh, they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I said it's easy for somebody who paid 10 cents for each Ether to pay you $69.3 million today, because honestly, he didn't pick it up for all that much. If I've got bags of Ether, it's not going to kill me to buy a digital piece of artwork. But that's not a bad thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because you know why? When you get things like that, that makes headlines. So people read headlines like that. They go like, oh, Beeple was sold for 69.3 million. Replicator was sold for however many million. But they don't realize that that's the US dollar, because that's still our anchor of value. One day that may change. One day that day of deliverance may come where we look at it as intergalactic credits. I don't know. But until that day of deliverance, right now, at least everybody anchors value in terms of the dollar. So what we have in terms of the professional investors is that they're only just really starting to understand what an investment or slight allocation of their portfolios to say crypto could do, and NFTs is totally off the radar. So when it comes to trading, when we launch fund products and we launch products to our clients, it's like a squirrel that you're trying to lead out of the forest. You can't make too many sudden moves, you'll scare it off. You've got to take it out with a couple of nuts. You're going to lead him out to the garden, and then you can feed him by hand. You can't just throw the whole bag of nuts at him, he'll go crazy. So in terms of trading, it is as much as I want to say it's not speculation, but it is to some extent speculation, because at the end of the day, right now, where you see the true value transfer when it comes to NFTs is still art. And as you and I both know, art is technically in the eye of the beholder. But what's the difference between this kind of art and say any other type of art? I'm a gamer. I've been playing video games since the first Atari came out. So I just bought skins for my character in Warzone, Call of Duty, Warzone, just last week. Cost me about $20 to take part in the whole Sylvester Stallone and the Die Hard thing, because there's a whole thing going on right now. Now, anybody else would look at this and be like, ludicrous, why are you spending real money to buy digital items? But had they not known that actually digital skins is a multi-billion-dollar business that's been going around on for the longest time? This is not new. But each generation finds it difficult to accept and to understand what the next generation's store value is. So for them, things that are of a digital, it's like, why when a teenager comes home and they go like, oh, somebody flamed me on Insta or something, they left a nasty comment, and they get so upset in real life, and the parent is struggling to understand that. They were like, but it's just a comment online, it's no big deal. But they don't realize that today, for the young people, that is real life. In fact, needing to eat, breathe, sleep, and do all these other things, in the tactile world is the exception, not the norm. Their life is lived in a digital sphere. So should it be any surprise then that art and NFTs should exist in the digital sphere? Where we're probably going to see that next bridge that gets linked is where we see these digital tokens that are representations of value and tied to ownership, then make that final leap to the physical world. It's like what Eric said earlier about in terms of payments on the internet in the early days, and it's something I tell so many people. I'm old enough. You might not be able to tell, but I'm old enough to tell you from the early days of the internet that HTTP and HTML were never ever designed for you to do e-commerce on. It was never designed for that. And it was later on that it was tagged on, and today we don't even think about it. We go credit card details, sure, and that's why there's so much credit card fraud, because we go like, take my credit card details and give me whatever it is that and we pay for digital content that way as well. So when we make that leap where you can see the digital tokens then become accepted as mainstream, that will be far down the road, and we're not even close to that yet. So when it comes to trading, and especially in NFTs, what we do tell clients is that, look, if you are buying an NFT, and we've got lots of friends who do that, if you are buying an NFT, make sure that you like it, because you could get stuck with it. Don't think about buying this thing if you think that it's going to go up 10x, 15x, 20x. Go take a punt on a DeFi token if that's what you're after. But if you like this piece of art, then get it. And where is the value come from? And this is where we speak to some of, we have clients who are slightly more advanced in age. And so we try to explain to them, why do people treasure something that's so easily replicable? Technically, it's just a GIF. It's just a digital image. Anybody can have a copy. I could send it out to the whole panel tonight, and it wouldn't make a difference. There is a difference because it creates scarcity in a land in the world of internet abundance. See, the internet has made everything so abundant. You can get information easily. You can replicate anything. You can Control C, Control V, practically anything. And this is the difference. ERC 721. The innovation behind ERC 721 is that NFTs now say that, no, you know what, you own that. If I want you guys to see the Monet in my house, I don't have one, but let's say I did have a Monet in my house, and if I wanted to see it, I'd have to invite all of you guys over to a party, which is not possible right now in the midst of a pandemic. So, and I want to, obviously if I'm an art collector, the whole point of it is not just for me to look at it, it's for me to show it off at a party or something. And with an NFT, imagine now you buy this beautiful LG or Samsung flat screen TV, you put it up there, you put the QR code for that particular NFT up there, everybody knows straight away that you own that NFT. And the NFT that I really liked was Replicator, because it was such a brilliant concept that, that there's a degree of randomness in it. The number of times and the amount of times that it replicates, and how many of this particular replicated token you get at the end of it, it's a complete random finish. You don't know. And I love that. I love the innovation behind that. And you know what I love even more? I love that the artists get a way to be remunerated in this life. There is no point being a rich dead artist. So finally, I mean, we have technological innovation where the artists can receive a portion of those royalties. They can receive the money that they so desperately need in this life. There's no point leaving it on to the estates and their descendants. So when it comes to NFTs, I'd say that there are tokens that we look at. I think that there is a market for looking at infrastructure tokens, of course. There are a group of infrastructure tokens, and I'd say that the space is perhaps even more novel than, say, DeFi in last summer. So it's really starting to come up. I think that, from an investor's point of view, if they're looking to sort of take a speculative leap on NFTs, and you want to sort of at least have some kind of system on it, and not just say that I'm going on a wild punt. You could really look at some of the infrastructure tokens. But if you're actually buying into, and you've got like Terra, Virtual Connect, Flow, Axie Infinity, Ecomi, there's so many, Pokemon. But if you're looking at just the NFT itself, make sure you like what it is that you buy, because this is art at the end of the day. And obviously, and this is something Javed's going to talk about later with regards to property and everything. When the use cases start to expand, then yes, perhaps you could broaden that horizon. But right now, make sure you like it before you buy it.
Yeah, and I think this is very important, Patrick. I think you touched a very important thing. So NFTs are not a trading speculative item. It's actually a piece of ownership that you get from something. So whatever is art right now, that is the first really mainstreamization of what we're talking about. But there's already collectives of sports, for instance, cricket in India. Actually, right now, I'm going to pass to you, Prashant, that is actually recently is finally coming. But in the US, basketball, for instance, if you look at Mark Cuban, he's already commercializing the big scale NFTs. And it's a great investment, to be honest, on that level, if you look from that level. But this is not an investment advice, by the way. And as well, I would like to say this is not another crypto bubble. Okay, it's very important. There was actually a comment from someone in the YouTube channel. This is not any bubble. The NFTs is mostly right now productization of digital certifications. Okay, and it's really important that people get into this. Okay, so I think it's really important that people understand this is a digital identity of products, digital assets. But it might be, for us, if you do a master in the university, and if you pay for an MBA, you're going to have a certification. And the certification, normally there are MBAs that cost $200,000 to $300,000, okay? If it's like Harvard or something like that. So that means your certificate of Harvard is worth a lot of money because you spent $200,000 for that. And it's a piece of paper. So if you have a certificate that you can share with your children and you can keep it, it's a big difference. Of course, I'm going a bit further. For now, we're not still there. But in the end of the day, it's not different from that. And I want to pass to you, Prashant. So, Prashant, you represent a bit of a young generation to the crypto and to the trading, and you are as well an entrepreneur. So I know that especially the young generation of traders and investors are looking at NFTs, like Patrick mentioned, the collectives, which is a big thing. For instance, there's people, especially in the world of craft, that are spending millions of dollars. And there was even the case that I think it was the North Korean regime that was using the Warcraft kind of token, let's put it that way, to pass money from countries to others. So I would like to touch, how do you see the NFTs, and as well a role both as an investor, as an exchange, as an entrepreneur?
Okay, so I have a lot of crazy ideas and perception about NFTs, right? The way I look at NFTs are like diamonds. I mean, as you have diamonds forever, NFTs or digital arts are something which is actually there on the blockchain forever. Imagine, I mean, you just maybe like just take like maybe, you know, a step back. Human society or human history have lost so much of art just because we didn't had internet technology and blockchain back then. And NFTs are the ways of getting all those ideas, thoughts, creativity on the blockchain, and that is there forever. I mean, like next generations, maybe 500 years, 1,000 years, or 50 years from now, they could just see it, what, you know, human society did, you know, back then, like 100 years, 200, 500 years ago. What was the culture, what was the art, what was actually really there and beyond. So this is just on the, you know, art and on the collection side. But the use cases for the NFTs, as you have mentioned, extends like much, you know, beyond further. I think Javed will talk about how NFTs can be used on, you know, real estate, asset ownership, and things like that. But for me, the way I think buying, purchasing of any NFTs is like I'm buying a piece of history. I'm buying something which is there forever. I mean, that's the best feeling in the world. The other thing is that, like right now, I mean, if you know, there is so many arts, like, okay, I come across someone who say that, okay, I have this painting of Leonardo da Vinci or something, you know, I'm an art collector. So today, if I have to prove that ownership of my particular art, if I even have to transact, I have to, you know, get a guy at my, you know, place, you know, organize a meeting, and then hundreds and thousands of people come with those magnifying glasses, trying to, you know, identify that what really is this, right? But on the blockchain and cryptography, I can just prove that, okay, you know, I have the keys, it's just in my, you know, MetaMask wallet, or, you know, anywhere, and I could just transfer it to you, right? That is the most amazing use case when we talk about of, you know, like transfer of ownership. I mean, to me, that's just really exciting. I mean, before that, transferring an ownership of any particular thing, I mean, we rely on so much middlemen. Like if I have to transfer a house, I have to prove 100 times that this house belongs to me. What if I could just, you know, just give a key and say that, okay, you know, this belongs to me now, just, you know, just let me chill a bit. I don't have to, you know, go every time and prove, right? So I think this is the most exciting part. The second thing is like the ownership. I could prove my ownership whenever, wherever I want. It's in my key. And the most important thing is that, like, the easiness of, you know, transaction. I mean, I could possibly sell it for anything. I could do any kind of a barter trade or any such thing like that. And most importantly, from an investment point of view, any art or anything, whenever you invest or whenever you buy, you see its price history, you see its trend, right? In the conventional market, for the conventional art, let's say, you know, traditional paintings or physical things and, you know, things like that, I really don't have any valuation history. I really don't have any criteria to identify that what was its true value was, right? And I am completely dependent on some auction houses, some middlemen, some agents, some approximation and things like that, right? And I really don't have any idea. I really don't have any clues or any trends. But when I buy NFTs, or when I look at from a perspective of investment, I have got all those data points to check, and that data points are all genuine. I could see that, okay, how many people are actually holding it. I actually know that how many paintings or how many you know, editions of particular art actually, you know, exist. And the most importantly is like no one can really forge it. So whenever I see, you know, an NFT from an investment perspective or something, the most important thing I see is like its transparency. And I think like you could get into the data, you can analyze the trends, and you can connect it on how this is going to be maybe next like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you know, from now. So all these three things to me for about NFTs is like really exciting, because they are there forever. I mean, they are like diamonds, and you know, I could just go to my friend someday and then we have an, you know, kind of an art competition. I don't have to actually show him, you know, pictures. I could see that, I could show him in a wonderful, you know, technical way, like, you know, on my blockchain that, hey, you know what, I own this NFT, I bought it maybe for like, $10,000 before, and now it's worth $1 million, right? And this is something which I'm proud about of my investment and taking that decision. But on the other side, since there's going to be a lot of artwork, a lot of creativity which would potentially come into the system, because it's like open source, as an investor you have to be really, really careful where you really want to possibly kind of be there, right? Like I mean, just not go by statistics or something, but also at the same time the kind of sentiments is also really very important, right? I mean, just a disclaimer. So before, I mean, I really bought crazy like NFT arts of like Elon Musk, like bold Elon, a voyage, a Mars, right? And then now Elon Musk doesn't, like, sentimentally, I think a lot of crypto community doesn't even like him. So that way, I mean, if I'm like looking at that, if I'm betting on Elon that way, I think in sentiments could possibly go down. So the whole idea is that what I realized from NFT marketplace is that you bet on something which has a culture, which has significance, which shows some kind of value for some kind of ideas, imagination, societies. I think that is true art, rather than falling from some kind of a meme kind of a stuff which is there on the NFT marketplace. So these are my few thoughts on the NFT.
No, and I think very good thoughts, because I think it touches a lot of different things. It comes to the ownership, it comes to the different ways how we look at NFTs. So last panel of, I think, the speakers. So Javed, you have a bit of responsibility here how to make the bridge, especially in the case of property, which is a big industry, one of the biggest in the planet. But just a bit of how you see these things, because I think you have, like you mentioned, an experience in crypto as well. You were involved in a big ICO, and you have experience as well in mainstream finance, and as well you have a FCA company registered in London, which is one of the top financial destinations in the planet. So a bit of background on how you see these things.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Dinesh. And I think beautifully the thoughts that have been shared so far by the panelists, beautiful explanation of what NFT is, how kind of it is being perceived in the market, kind of generally, especially with institutional or traditional investors, which Patrick touched upon, and how kind of it is still. I mean, there is a community and that continues to grow, that is accepting more and more crypto, and it is becoming more mainstream and so on and so forth. But then there is that kind of traditional institutional investors, etc., where there is more waking up to how NFTs and generally the crypto market, etc., is functioning. But at the same time, I think there's a little bit of pushback, because they don't like change. People don't like change, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, given that this innovation is meant to kind of facilitate all kinds of innovation, access to investments, returns, access to art, and so on and so forth. So really very excited about it, and very completely agree on what has already been said. So from an NFT perspective and how it's being utilized at the moment, more so on the art side of things, I think that's been kind of discussed in detail so far. What I am interested in touching upon, and like kind of previously others and Dinesh has mentioned onto, is how can NFTs be then utilized onto the physical assets, physical world we live in. Yes, absolutely, digital assets, digital world, the new generation, kind of living and breathing, kind of the internet and social media and whatnot. That's a very that's a fact of life. But at the same time, we all have a physical presence. We all, need to eat and live somewhere, and physically transport ourselves, and so on and so forth. So NFTs, the way it is, kind of being linked to the real life assets, one real good use case would be property. At the moment, generally, legislation makes it really difficult, or regulation makes it really difficult to own or invest into property projects, especially, I mean, if you look at two particular areas. One is construction. An average person does not have the access to $1 billion, construction project, and they do not have access to the returns that project might offer. Separately, investing into a London-based property that is, £5 million, or even a £500,000 or £1 million, generally the access of the, that particular property or opening the returns up to an individual ends up, being challenging. There are certain regulations in certain parts of the world. The UK is pretty good on that, where you can invest into property through crowdfunding platforms, where the FCA has allowed certain regulation which can allow fractional investments into property. But again, that is restricted to sophisticated investors, high net worth individuals, maybe restricted investors. But again, that's a deeper discussion. But it's not supposed to be targeted for the or open to the average person out there. So that's kind of one piece which NFTs set out to solve, and I'll talk about that in a minute. How the other piece is that the ability to access property transactions through the convenience of NFTs. Again, we've talked about how NFTs and the blockchain, the immutability of blockchain, can be utilized to ensure that any transaction on the blockchain is easily conducted, it's efficient, it's transparent, it is really easy to check, kind of the historical records, data, etc. And property is one such industry where it is really known to be a sort of a dinosaur industry, in the sense that it is really slow to adopt change. There are many reasons for that. I won't go into that because that's not really that relevant to this conversation. But because of that, any transaction, any property transaction in the UK, an average property transaction, I think, takes about 6 to 8 months. And the amount of effort, time, etc., that goes into it, that's crazy. And then if you talk to people who've actually gone through any property transaction at any level, be that at a personal level because they want to buy a property or sell a property that they live in, or from an investment perspective, it becomes a difficult journey. And then on top of that, you've got stakeholders involved, like, the estate agents and lawyers and so on and so forth. That makes, again, the journey more difficult. And then on top of that, if you're in a chain, essentially the property that you're about to buy, potentially that person pulls out. Suddenly your entire 6 months of, kind of time investment, all of that is, kind of gone down the drain, and you have to start from scratch. And that might have many different, consequences for the stakeholders involved in alongside, kind of additional costs. So again, NFTs, set out to potentially really simplify that. What we're doing and how NFTs can be utilized to solve some of these problems, I'll just talk about that briefly now. So property transactions, property ownership, I think that would be the first thing that you could essentially utilize NFTs to simplify. So there's a particular property, kind of, again, depending upon, kind of the jurisdictions. For example, in the UK, we've got land registry that is pretty digitized already, but it's still centralized, kind of there are stakeholders and so on and so forth involved. So if we have an NFT token created for a particular property that is linked to the property physicality of the property, so the ownership, kind of is verified with the government, and obviously there's that centralized piece involved, then all of that is recorded into an NFT. And obviously you can have that, kind of fractionalized, in the sense that initially when you buy the property, let's say a £1 million property based in London, XYZ, kind of street and location, address, etc. All of that information goes into the NFT piece. Brilliant. So once I've acquired that, when I'm about to sell the property, the next owner does not need to go through all of that hassle of verifying whether I'm the actual owner of the property or not, and when the land registry needs to actually change records, when, the lawyers need to verify all of this information, when potentially the requirement of, kind of additional due diligence just falls away, which completely takes away a big chunk of the time and cost involved in that entire transaction. So that really makes, kind of life easy. And then on top of that, once, kind of I've got a property tokenized and, kind of in an NFT form, I could easily then, again, thinking out loud here, there are many different ways that you could further innovate on top of that. So for example, I've got a property worth £1 million. I've got it in an NFT form. I want 20% of kind of that equity and just sell it off to somebody else while living in the property. I could do that via NFTs. I could potentially separate the ownership of the property versus the rental income of the property, so that I actually tokenize the entire future rental income and sell that off. And you could kind of continuously innovate in different ways to structure property deals which are kind of based off physical bricks and mortar assets, through the ease and convenience of technology and what NFTs offer us. And then by extension, kind of the cost, the efficiency, time efficiency ends up improving significantly without, kind of the need for middlemen, stakeholders, or at least reducing the need for that, and improving the entire transaction piece and making returns and property transactions in all aspects a lot easier. So I think that's my take on how NFTs can be utilized in the property market, and how NFTs is not just restricted to digital art. Kind of it can be then linked to any other form of physical asset that we kind of live and breathe and touch and so on and so forth, and just utilize the power of NFTs to make everything really simple and easy. And that's what we're kind of setting out to do at this properties with partners like BTCU and so on, and citiesabc.
Thank you so much. I think so you just put a couple of case studies and business developing perspectives. So I hope people listening to us in the audience can take notes, because I think there's really so the property industry, I don't know the exactly amount, but it's like probably $300 trillion if you put all the assets on that. But what is interesting right now is really what you said, the possibilities that you can use. And I think this is very important for people listening to us, because normally most of people are still discovering, firstly, what is and what are NFTs, and secondly is, okay, can I trade it like Patrick said, or can I get something out of this short term? This is not for short term. That's the first thing that we need to consider. And the second thing as well, this is a big business. That's why this panel is the business of the NFT business. It's a big business right now that is going to change all the business. I would say you're going to have an NFTization of the business and society. And I think this is the exciting and the challenging part, but as well, this is where we can actually get a lot of opportunities here. So, Eric, so you are working, of course, with a company that is decentralized, the BTCU, and as well working both on the technology, on a coin, and as well building a marketplace. So could you explain here, I think for people listening to us, and I think probably a bit more, without going too much technical, I think not everyone is so technical, but some ideas how you see these variations, and somehow do you see, especially the relationship with what Javed said, from the theory to the practice? Because I think this is where it is the next $1 trillion economical jump, and as well where blockchain is going to go even bigger, because I think it's already quite big, especially in the financial industry. But a lot of the fame goes to crypto trading and investment.
Right. I know people who really like they hate NFTs. Patrick was mentioning, people who are into NFTs are bordering or straight up full lunatic, and we're all laughing at that, because we sense that's, some of it is kind of true, but a lot of people say NFTs are a hype and it's just a bubble and it's going to be gone. However, the reason it's a hype is because people see the potential of it. And we just, from the panel here, displayed a great bunch of examples of the potential of NFTs. And, I think something is called a hype when we see the potential. However, what's actually currently on the market is a fraction of that, is a disappointing of what that ought to be. And so anything, just like when the internet started, or when a lot of the things that exist today, like music streaming, when it first, like, I didn't understand it, and I was on Napster downloading songs, and then meanwhile I got this friend who's like, subscribing to music streaming and paying monthly fees for not owning the music. To me, that didn't make any sense. And but now it's a mainstream thing. Everyone's on Spotify. Everyone's doing this kind of stuff, including myself. And yet we don't have to own that music. And that model will change in the future about ownership of music, or paying these sort of subscriptions to not own anything. I kind of digressed a little bit, but the purpose of an NFT is to own something. So Patrick talked about owning skins. Yeah, you buy a skin in a game, you show it off, and that's the whole purpose of buying a skin, so you can show it off. But do you really own it? If that game or that company goes out of business, you no longer own that skin because it cannot be transferred to anything else across another game. The format is different. However, with an NFT, when you eventually, whether it's a skin, it's a digital book, music, you buy it and that company closes, you still own something. Whether or not it's going to be usable in the future, it really depends on what people do with it. There might be another company that comes along and says, hey, we are going to honor all of those NFTs from that particular company that went out of business, and whatever skin you have, whatever song you have, whatever file that you have from the NFT, we will honor that and it would work on ours, where it could be traded or changed for something else, an NFT of something else. And so the potential there is limitless to actually own something in the digital world. So I don't think NFTs are a hype. I think we really need to look into it, and this is why BTCU is looking into it. And it's not just about art. A lot of people are not interested into art. Prashant, we were looking at we were talking about which I was talking about with Javed about museums and art, and he said he's not really into that. He's more into the technology and a lot of the business aspects, and it's true. Right now regarding NFTs, it's all about the art, and art, is a fraction of what real estate market cap is around the world. Worldwide, I think Dinis just mentioned is maybe $300 trillion market cap for worldwide real estate, and for art, it's probably not even 100 billion annually. So that is quite a big difference. So the potential of what NFTs can become, right now we're looking at it a lot in art and digital art, and the Beeple that sold for 69.3 million, and some of these cyberpunks and how much they could go for 10, 20, 30,000. When you transfer that and you start looking at real estate around the world that you can purchase through an NFT, that is truly where the potential of NFTs become. And not only is it that can you purchase, and eventually this is what we're heading towards and what we're trying to build with Zisk Properties, is the potential to purchase real estate worldwide through the BTCU network. And you're allowed to basically look at a property, have all that content there within the NFT, and be able to use cryptocurrencies and purchase that property worldwide. Of course, there are things, parameters that you probably should take. You probably want to look at the property. You might want to fly there, but you really cut out a lot of the middlemen, the real estate agents, a lot of the escrow, and all that. It becomes quite trustless. And as long as that smart contracts requirements are met, you can become the owner of a piece of property halfway around the world. And right now, to do that is near impossible. You would need to find the right people, the right agent. Does that agent work with that piece of real estate? So we're really streamlining how real estate business deals will work going forward on the BTCU network. So that's kind of how I see things are going right now with NFTs, and we're trying to stay ahead of the game. Yes, there might be NFT art marketplaces and different things on the BTCU network, but we are looking into bigger things such as real estate.
Yeah, that is a big thing. And I think, like you mentioned, so for instance, just for the ones that are looking at numbers and macroeconomics, the whole the entire market world, or market trading and investment is around, in 2019 was around $69 billion, and in 2020, I think, because of course everything happening around the world with COVID, went a bit regressed to 50 billion. Of course, this is official numbers. If you look at all the arts in museums, of course, we have much more. But I'm talking about really the trading and the operation. So looking at of course, the property market and real estate, we're talking about a huge part of the chunk of the world economy. But well, I think the point here is how we put this in practice. And I think people listening to us from all over the world, I'm seeing some questions. Of course, the questions are still, okay, how can we look at these different areas? And of course, is this another bubble? I think we answered already to that. There's no bubble here. We are building something selective and very powerful. So Patrick, coming back with your hat of both looking at trading from a professional level, but as well as funds, how do you see the opportunities with the NFTs, especially for people looking into us that have more interest in looking at this? And I think you touch a very important point. I think everyone touched in the sense that we actually have to own, when you buy something like this, is not to trade it immediately. You might not be able to trade it immediately unless there are buyers. But what important is that it's like buying a Picasso, okay? You might be the jackpot if you have bought the Picasso 50 years ago, but now, of course, it's not a jackpot. Now it's a massive sale that you have to buy and pay $50, $100 million or $200 million for that. So I think this is the part active. And you mentioned as well your background in gaming, which is another massive industry. Because of course the gaming industry is looking at this, and it's been as well very digital. Part of the success of crypto initially was with the gaming industry, and even if you look at some of the people in Bitcoin were actually using this to pay people that were buying games and things like that. So how do you see these things, and especially from a pragmatic perspective?
I think pragmatically, and I saw a question there with regards to whether NFTs can actually protect intellectual property. You'll have to understand that the laws haven't caught up. The laws and regulations haven't even caught up with mainstream cryptocurrency, let alone NFTs. I think by the time the laws actually do catch up with NFTs, will be very, very far down the road, and everything else would have just sort of like leapt ahead already. So you have to understand that the only thing, when you buy any NFT, you're basically taking a leap of faith on the technology. So it's not just a bet on the particular whatever it is that's associated with that NFT, be it digital. It more likely than not, at least for this period of time, it's going to be digital. I think it'll take some time more before it becomes linked to the physical, because that will require regulations to back up and recognize the legal rights behind that token. Because right now we can't even agree on what is Bitcoin. Some people say it's a commodity. Some jurisdictions say it's a commodity. Some jurisdictions say it is a currency. Some jurisdictions say it more resembles a security. Everybody's got an opinion, and all of them are right and all of them are wrong. So with regards to NFTs, you're taking several layers of bets. And I think that for anybody who wants to perhaps take a punt on one of them, because that's really what it is, short of you actually appreciating the art and understanding the value of owning something that is digitally scarce to a certain extent, you're taking, number one, you're taking a punt on Ethereum, because most NFTs are built off the Ethereum blockchain. So you are taking a punt that the Ethereum blockchain will endure. I think that's a fair bet, but you have to understand that it's one that you're taking. So, you can't turn your back and go like, hey, nobody told me, I never knew about that. Then you're really just gambling. So you need to understand that first, it's a punt on the longevity of the Ethereum blockchain. Number two, it is also a punt on the idea that this NFT will represent ownership. So programmatically, you can be sure that if this smart contract says only 7 of this particular NFT will ever be issued, that's that. However, if that doesn't stop an artist from reissuing that same piece again another 100, 200 times. Now, bear in mind, just because Beeple releases 500 days doesn't mean that he can't do the same thing over and over again. It is counterintuitive for him to do something like that, but that doesn't make it illegal. And you can't, if you've paid $69.3 million for this Beeple, and then he goes back and he then releases another 5 million of those, there is technically nothing to stop him from doing that, unless the initial smart contract said that, that could never happen because it's locked forever, it gets burned. Any additional subsequent attempt to release a GIF that is tied to this particular GIF, and it all has metadata. So if you try to do that, it will automatically get burned. Yes, but that's a pretty sophisticated smart contract NFT, and that wasn't written for in the case of Beeple. So it's you are taking an additional second layer bet that, number two, whichever this artist is that created this NFT for you is not going to use the technology for what it's meant to use for, copy and paste easily. And that's why software entrepreneurs are so wealthy, because the marginal cost of making an additional one is zero. It's just, you're just copying and pasting the same set of code. These days we don't even send out box sets for software, so there really is no marginal cost to releasing an additional unit of software. So you need to be okay with that. And if you're okay with that, you understand the risks that are involved, you understand that, look, this is something that nobody could buy ever again, then and you're still happy with it and you appreciate it, then by all means, go ahead. But again, I think that we have to, and oftentimes that is one of the I would say it's one of the idiosyncrasies of working in the crypto business, is that everybody, well, not everybody, but there's a large number of people, particularly retail investors, who come inside here to think that this is a place where you can get rich quick. I've written a lot about market manipulation. If you think you can come into this space and get rich quick, you are terribly mistaken, because there is going to be tens or thousands of other whales who are here to eat your lunch. And the point of because this market's unregulated, it's extremely easy to manipulate. You can, and a lot of people say, oh, but you can't front run on decentralized exchanges. Let me show you how. There are 1,000 ways to front run decentralized exchanges. There's even more ways to do all of the activities which are illegal in the financial markets, but you can do it here in crypto because it's not regulated. So you have to understand that, and you have to be comfortable with that. And if you understand it, you understand the risks, you assess the risk, you recognize that, look, this is money that you can part with, then by all means go ahead. But when I hear stories about people, selling their houses, selling their cars, getting a mortgage on their house to go and take a better NFT, and then after that, crying to the authorities thereafter, look, I don't think that's fair. You didn't do your homework. And this, if of all the different spaces you could be in, this is the one space where you have to do your homework all the time. I spoke to a colleague of mine the other day, and I said, being in the crypto space is literally like sitting for an exam every single day of your life that you will never pass, because it never finishes. Every day there's more reading to do. Every day there's more technology to learn. Every day there's more code to decipher. So, if you're buying an NFT and you don't want to be bothered with all that, that's absolutely fine. But at least understand the risks that are involved. So I think when it comes to things like trading, do I see NFTs being part of the portfolio of a family office anytime soon? I would say 10 years ago, I didn't even see family offices allocating into Bitcoin. Let's not even talk about 10 years ago. 3 years ago, phone calls that we were making to family offices were not answered. And these days, we can't even answer all the phone calls and the inbound leads that keep coming in. So I've seen how fast these things can change. So I'd say never say never. I think it's absolutely possible. But is that something that you should put your life savings on? I'd probably suggest not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is critical. I will repeat the important, do your homework for everyone listening to us. And as well, learn, because this is about learning. Of course, if you want to be in the cutting edge of technology, and I think this is actually for anything crypto, for anything technological. Of course, crypto is different because it's about trading and investing. So I think it's really important, and I think really the challenge here and the opportunity as well is how to look at this in an intelligent and in an effective way. So Prashant, you are from a new generation of traders and investors. You are as well in India, which has a new medium class that is probably the size of all Europe together. And as well, there's a lot of new money being created there, and people are looking at different ways of technology, especially young generation. So can you tell us how you look at this? I know that you know the legal disclaimers and then the importance that what Patrick mentioned, but how do you look at this from a perspective of, let's say, the people that are in the exchanges that you are involved, the people in your community of traders? How do you look at this? And for people listening to us, because that's the idea of this live.
Yeah, correct. So Patrick really made a very good point about the regulations and things like that. My personal belief coming from this generation is that, I think with the advent of internet, I think every single time whenever there has been some kind of other innovation, we have been like almost at the edge with the regulations. And I personally believe that the more the world is free and it's open, I think we have more ways of doing innovative things and things like that. So even in India, I'm associated with a community called Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Community of India, which is kind of working very closely with the Indian government in trying to regulate them about cryptocurrencies and things like that. there have been a lot of FUD about that Indian government going to ban cryptos and things like that. And we literally have been, pushing, giving the government all the stats and saying them that, hey, look at this. There is hardly 1%, money laundering, which is happening with the cryptos, right? And they all say that, this information is not true and things like that. And then we have to go back and show them on chain analytics, hire some, like big fours to create a proper report and give it to them. But rather we are saying to the government that, hey, look at this. This can possibly create like an open world finance, right? Imagine that Indian entrepreneurs, they have so much ideas in their head. I mean, all entrepreneurs around the world, but I'm more, giving India as an example, more from social impact perspective, because hardly, like 30 to 40% of the population in India is urban population. Rest 60% are all rural population. So you could possibly compare this to, any other like, backward or third, economy countries. Of course, the good part here is that a lot of people in India have access to, very, very cheap internet. So which means that they have access to very, very, powerful and advanced knowledge. But look at a point that if someone in the village would want to start something, right? Like, I mean, if they need to get a capital, what is the best way of getting in capital and minimizing the risk? I would say crowdfunding. I mean, like, IEOs or ICOs in some ways very good, because everyone can just come together and contribute $1 and possibly 10,000 people can come and give him like a $10,000. So your individual risk of investment at your individual level is also reduced to a significant extent. And then, there's a question of how do you do KYCs and stuff like that. So with Snapper, our blockchain company, the whole idea was to build a platform and an ecosystem which would take care of all of that, and in a decentralized and in a privacy controlled manner. So we have been like developing 3-4 years on a product called SnapCert, which can be used in land, government, e-governance, tracking, finances, insurance, everywhere. And the whole fundamental idea of this, that, okay, the first and the most important thing to track any of those, activities is that, okay, first you need to have a DID. I mean, you need to have like a proper KYC, which is done. And I think the DID is the only way where I think the people of my generation are more comfortable to, and, because these are things which are, prone to, censorship and other activities, right? I should determine with whom I should share my data. I should share my finances and things like that. And the taxation parts and, all of that, we have seen to the government that, okay, like, come on, let's look at China, right? On the other side is creating like a blockchain framework, BAS, which means that every company, every entity, every individual would be connected to this BAS framework. And all the data, whatever you do, would go through a BAS on a blockchain system. And, your things and everything, your privacy and everything is protected. So we try to propose the similar thing that, okay, if China can do it, why not India? Like, we have all the good talent, good minds, and we can create this BAS. We can put smart contracts. We can put all the logics which is required by the authorities to kind of, track and trace. So personally, my opinion is that, like, going forward, this technology and this overall NFTs, from investments to everything, would be a very, very big leap of faith. I think it would drive massive innovation. It would drive access to easy capital. It would also drive, access to more and more investments, because my investments and everything is like more liquid. I'm able to hedge myself against global volatility risk. I mean, if you look at the inflation number, which is going to be out there in this following quarter, I think it's massive. Like, countries have already moved towards negative, interest rates. Inflation is kicking in, more money and supply is coming in. So I should make sure that beyond the government and everything, I am personally hedged myself against all these factors. And even if cryptos or, this blockchain technology gives me like even a 5% or a 10% edge, which could, possibly like destroy like lives, I think, we should take that risk. And this is why, I'm in it, and we are trying our best that, we take a very informed decision. And thankfully, the government of India has been really, really good, very, very supportive. They are trying to, learn to us, hear us out. And that's why in a recent, they said that, okay, like, we are scrapping the crypto bill, like ban bill, which was there before, and now we want to have a new committee now to look at this technology in a different way. While of course central banks are always against it, because they lose certain power and certain things like that. I mean, there is a lot of disintermediation, but I think in the long term, considering the investment base of India is like around 8 to 10 million users, I think it's pretty huge as a democracy to drive this revolution forward. So this is my take on this.
Yeah, and it's really, I would say that especially the young economies, I'm talking more emerging markets, they have a much bigger opportunities because you have less legacy systems, and as well the technology is going to be going much faster because you don't have decades of legacies, and as well challenges on different technologies not speaking with each other. So of course a lot of these things can be leapfrogging economies and creating a lot of multi-billion dollars and trillion dollars economies. So going to you, Javed, in terms of the last things before we go to just a final wrap up. So, Javed, in terms of what you're trying to do, is quite ambitious, but it's really, there's a couple of startups actually working on solutions like this. So, from these properties and as well for Eric as well with BTCU, how do you want to take this? Because I think the opportunity that I see with what you're doing is that definitely you have already a fantastic business model with these properties. Of course, even not very well, you are not very well funded, but you have already created a very solid business that actually has a big opportunity. But if you bring the NFTs to the top, I think it can go tenfold their business. And I think so how do you see this for people listening to us? Because in the end of the day, what you build with these properties is already looking at these things. I think the NFT will just expose a new opportunity for digitizing and creating new solutions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dinis. So from a perspective of where we're at, so at the moment, yes, this property is, I've, kind of self-funded it with, kind of my partners, and we've already built the technology, which is more the centralized traditional form of technology to utilize the current, kind of UK regulatory framework to be able to allow investments into properties in the UK and globally in fractional amounts. But the NFT piece, we're working with, BTCU to bring that to properties, bring that to this properties, because of all the benefits and benefits of NFTs that we've just discussed, and obviously drawbacks of not having one. Just touching upon a couple of points that have been mentioned earlier, and very rightly so. So Patrick mentioned that NFTs, there are risks, kind of associated with them, in particular when the NFT is not connected to a physical asset. It's, kind of connected to a digital asset. Very, very completely agree with, kind of the points made. And whatever you invest in, you need to go in with your eyes open. You need to understand the risks involved and so on and so forth. But I would want to extend on that to the point that those risks, kind of port over to traditional assets as well, and traditional, be it physical assets or otherwise. And I'll just give you an example that somebody that I know personally ended up investing £200,000 with a person that was supposed to be investing in property on their behalf in a jurisdiction like the UK. And I think that individual, again, through kind of knowledge, had, I think, raised about a couple of £1 million. Nothing to do with crypto, nothing to do with NFTs. He was, utilizing a UK-based company to invest, to help people invest into properties and so on and so forth. About 12 months later, initially he gave 3 months in, I think he gave the first tranche of returns, etc. But then, 9 months later, he just disappeared. So we're talking about a UK, kind of regulated environment, nothing to do with cryptos, and somebody who has actually scammed, people from their, life savings. I have known people within this scam that have, put in their, so somebody who's a working individual that have worked for 10 years, saved, 25, 30,000 pounds for a deposit for a property to buy. And because he was being offered some amazing returns with, kind of bits of credibility that was developed and just for show, kind of to be able to conduct that scam. So essentially, whether you're looking at NFTs or outside of NFTs, you need to make sure that you're aware of what you're getting yourself into, who's the provider, what are the risks involved, what are the assets that you're actually investing in. And if it is a digital art, you completely understand and appreciate, like Patrick mentioned, like Prashant mentioned, the risks involved and so on and so forth. With this properties, what we're doing is we're doing a little bit of ensuring that the NFTs and the digital assets side of things, and the crypto, tokens and cryptocurrencies, where there's a lot of speculation. The value associated with kind of the cryptocurrency or the NFT is based on. It is still based on demand and supply. It could be kind of open to more market manipulation at this point in time when regulation hasn't caught up. But we're working with physical assets, and then on top of that, we're working with kind of existing regulation to make sure that everything is done properly. And if in case the NFT piece didn't kind of work out in the long term, which obviously we don't believe in, we believe in that is the future. But at the same time, you've got that traditional kind of physical asset and the traditional ownership that is brought to you via the convenience of the NFT through our offering. So that's what we are working on. That is where we are a bit different. And then on top of that, you've got a physical asset where kind of which is driven to or which is connected to the property market and the wider UK economy if you're investing in a UK property. So not open to speculation, and the NFT price or the NFT value would move in line with the property that it's connected to, not just general speculation and so on and so forth. There might be an element of that, but not really. So that's what makes the entire NFT piece combined with physical assets a lot more safer, a lot more interesting, and like kind of other Eric's mentioned, Dinis has mentioned that it's one of the biggest, it's not one of, it's the biggest kind of asset market in the world. And I think a few years ago when I was looking at studies, half the global assets at that point in time were actually real estate, and the other half composed of everything else combined. So I think we've got a fantastic opportunity here, and we're kind of trying to make the traditional, make it modern, and kind of open to the future and innovation essentially.
Yeah, I think you made the super important points, and I think especially the point of that the scams exist in anything, and I think of course real money gets more scams, and I think probably because crypto is quite new. Of course, anything that happens in crypto, and because of the volatility, of course, it gets much more explosion and much more visibility. So as a final wrap up, we've been here for 1 hour and a half, and I thank you everyone listening to us from around the world. We've been having between 600 people, and I think we still have around, after 1 hour and a half, around close to 200. So I would appreciate everyone listening to us, especially on my YouTube channel, but as well in other places. Of course, these interviews, this panel will be staying on live after this. But well, last wrap up. I know that we are in a special moment because there was, we are kind of in a bear market after a very bull market. And of course, NFTs have been contributed to all of this, as well as probably the most famous part, because of course, touches art, touches music, and touches film. But as we've been discussing here, it's a very serious business that is not just about crypto, much more about owning something, but as well, as Patrick mentioned, is a technology that is evolving. Okay, if you buy a piece of art, it's like buying, ironically, even picking on metaphor or the comparison of Patrick, if you look at Leonardo da Vinci, when, for instance, he did the biggest painting of the Jesus Christ and the apostles in the heating stuff, he used a technology that was too advanced and he was destroyed. So that's the irony. And there was Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, so I'm just using this as a paradox because oil was a technology that in the 16th century was not advanced enough. And ironically, the people that bought, or this case was the clients of Leonardo da Vinci, they got still an amazing painting, but the painting after a couple of months was destroyed, or partly still is not completely destroyed. So I think here, the point here, I think if you're looking at this, we need to look at history, because nothing really is invented anymore, and we just keep repeating. It's just the technology is different as we get into a new layer. So, Eric, you've been on this space for some time, and as will you, Patrick and Prashant, you're quite new in age, but very, very senior in what you're doing. So I think as a last point for people listening to this, both think two parts of the question. One is the advice that you would give people in terms of business of NFTs, point one. And then point two is, I think, giving what is happening in the markets at the moment, if you want to give a bit of a final wrap up. So I'll start with you, Eric, but I'll let everyone go afterwards.
Okay. As far as any advice in terms of NFTs, I don't know if it was you that was breaking up or me. advice for giving the community about NFTs, I think there's going to be risks. And as far as BTCU goes, we are willing to take this risk to be on the forefront, the frontier of exploring how NFT will be used in the business world. And in terms of heading straight for real estate, this is going to be a business case, a use case that we want to establish first with ZIS properties. And this is kind of with the traditional front and linking that up with the blockchain. And once we have this linked up, we're further going to study and develop that so that we can develop the ecosystem where the use cases could be integrated with other platforms that currently exist. So as far as investing into NFTs, you really have to do your research. Don't just invest something blindly, like everyone has said already, just because somebody told you that it's gonna, quick money, easy money. That is not the way to do it. If you want to invest in something, in a project that is doing something that you believe in, then do research and do something like that. But just to blindly invest in NFTs, I would not consider that. And as far as the market goes, right now we're in a very unstable situation, and there's a lot of forces being put on the markets here. Of course, there's Chinese regulations and recently that have talked about the banning of mining and some of the other things. So regarding taxes in the U.S., so regulation and those kind of pressures are going to affect the crypto markets. The crypto markets wants to prosper. The bull market wants to continue. And as far as the institutions that are in it already and the other institutions that want to get in, they want it to continue. However, there's so many forces in play. There's risks. There's people are scared, and so when that happens, you see the major dumps like that just happened recently with the 40 to 50% decrease in in a lot of projects. So that is something we have to keep track of. And I kind of foresee the bull market to continue, and we just have to really come together as a community in the crypto blockchain industry to do the right things. And the bad actors, again, this goes back to 2017. A lot of the bad actors, they need to be out of the space. We have to notice who they are. We have to know what they're trying to do. And we also have to, at the same time, focus on what we need to do as an industry to continue to propel it. So my recommendation is overall, just number one is always, as a community guy, as a global community manager at CoinMarketCap, I told everyone to always do your own research. And how do you research? You spend your free time. You spend 15 minutes a day watching your favorite YouTuber that you believe and that you personally like. And you read articles. You go to different media websites that are reliable, and you do study on these things, and it will pay off. And that's how a lot of people get into this space as well. So, and once you do that, you'll understand the different depths and the different layers of this industry, and you'll see that it's not just about trading, buying and selling. It's so much more than that. And for BTCU, we're right now focused on gaining more and more traction, which we believe we're doing, and we're trying to focus on building. And of course, there's the airdrop portion that a lot of our community is very patiently waiting on to receive BTCU airdrop 1-to-1 ratio with BTC. And we're looking, once we get more and more traction, to list on tier 1 exchange, and then we will be able to carry out those airdrops. But I think more importantly and foremost is the actual use case of BTCU and the traction that we need to gain before we actually just list for the sake of listing.
Wise words. So I think thank you so much, Eric. So Javed, you were the last, so I would like to go. So you have quite a lot of experience on this as well. So any notes that you want to leave the audience on these things?
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Dinesh. So I think I completely resonate and agree with what Eric just said. It's common sense. Don't anything that seems too good to be true usually is. There's no such thing as free lunch. And if you want to, kind of invest into a get rich quick scheme, then I think NFTs and cryptos are a very high risk, kind of proposition, like potentially any other assets. For example, if you invest in a property, it's a physical bricks and mortar asset. But if you don't understand the property market, the cycle that you're in, the location the property is in, the potentially, kind of due diligence within the property itself, i.e., is there a mold, is there a leak, is there any fundamental structural issues, etc., is the ownership, kind of legit and no issues there, you would be facing similar type of issues. So whatever you invest in, either make sure that you've got sufficient knowledge, that you are and you've done sufficient checks and due diligence on that particular asset before investing into it. Another common concept within the finance world, generally any family offices, large institutional investors, they usually subscribe to this way of thinking, i.e. diversification by as many different factors as you can. That could be geographic diversification, that could be type of assets, that could be economies, and countries, that could be currency, etc., etc. So a really large number of buckets there. So try and diversify your, kind of generally portfolio and investments and so on and so forth. And of course, if you don't have the right knowledge, make sure that you're either usually taking appropriate advice, where, regulated advice can really help you ensure that you're not doing anything wrong. Obviously, cryptos, NFTs, it's not regulated, so you need to, again, go more, kind of what Eric suggested in terms of getting your own skill set, getting your own knowledge up to scratch. And I think bottom line, and if you're investing in anything, make sure that you are very clear about the risk return profile, so that if you're investing in something that is high risk, potentially high return, but then you're at the same time open to the possibility of potentially losing some of or all of that capital, and you can, kind of accept that as a loss without it affecting your family or your lifestyle and you coming on the street type of thing, type of situation. So apart from that, and with the legal disclaimer, this is not any investment advice, kind of, it's just my personal opinions and views that I'm sharing. I would hope that you're in a better place to, kind of make sensible decisions and take advice where appropriate.
Very wise, and I think I like that we are all in a wise mood, because I think it's really important, bear in mind everything happening in the world. Prashant, from your side.
Yeah, I think the most amazing part about the entire space and everything is that we have really, I mean, as Elon Musk have said, like the community together have really created some magic internet money. There has been massive transfer of wealth, power, from anyone to, everyone, the dreamers, achievers, believers, and, everything. So me personally, I think this industry, overall blockchain as a technology, crypto, everything has given me a lot in my life personally. And I believe that with the right mindset and the right set of people in the space, and who are trying to just build and trying to educate people more around it, I think it will be always be fine. I think like even regulators couldn't understand internet, like internet was not available to people till like 1970s and 1980s, right? I mean, everybody has to ultimately fight for the freedom, and this technology is giving back that freedom to the people. So I think we just have to keep building up, just be careful with what we are doing, and just do a lot of homework before we deep dive anything. I think this is really not some magic internet money, as like people really say. A lot of hustle and hard work has gone into it, but of course it could be also a magic internet value if you do the things right and know what you're doing, and just keep on educating people, building some cool stuff, and be there just because you want to create value. And this is all about decentralization. So I would say just keep building.
Yeah, I think creating value is my middle name, and I think it's really important that everyone listen to us. If you want to really do your homework, create value. So last but not least, Patrick, as someone that has been on this for some time, what would be your wise last words?
I'm not sure if there'll be the wise last words, but I think everybody's encapsulated it right, which is this basically do your own due diligence. But that having been said, I think that if you want to have a spot of fun, it's a little bit like going to a casino and you want to just put a little bit of a wager on a bit of NFT. You know what? Have some fun. Investment. The point of investment, well, it is to make you some money. And if you're not enjoying the process of doing that, then what was the whole point? You might be rich, but you'll be miserable. So you might as well have some fun. Find something that you enjoy doing, and then see how that rewards you, not necessarily in a pecuniary way, but just from an intellectual way. And then you might find something that you can then go on to find that, oh, hey, you know what? I like NFT so much, I'm going to make it my living. And I think that before I go, it's interesting that Guggenheim Partners just launched a blockchain tower in New York City, and inside this blockchain tower, there's an NFT museum. So, and one of the questions was like, how I think they asked them, the founding partner of Guggenheim Partners, why would anybody go to see an NFT museum when it's digital and you can see it on your phone? Now that having been said, why would anybody go to a concert when you can just stream it on a video? So obviously there's a difference there, right? And this person, this anchor on Bloomberg, she clearly didn't understand the distinction. And I think that for a while that's still going to be the case. So and the mainstream media, whilst it's useful, I think it's oftentimes used as a place to sway sentiment, and it is often also used as a place where manipulators or people who want to affect the market in a certain way, they also do use the mainstream media for their advantage. And I think that's fair game. It's fair game. And in an era where we have so many different sources of news, I think that if nothing more, yes, it's tougher to be a citizen in these times, but at the same time, we also have more opportunity. But it also means we have to apply ourselves a lot more and put in a lot more effort in terms of the media that we consume, the information that we consume, and then to be more discerning on our parts. So when it comes to NFTs, I think absolutely look into the technology. To be fair, non-fungible tokens, it's not something that's entirely new. Strictly speaking, if you wanted to be pedantic about it, every single cryptocurrency is non-fungible because every single address is technically unique. Coins don't exist like a bag of gold like Scrooge McDuck. So if you really wanted to be pedantic about it, every single cryptocurrency is non-fungible because every address has its own provenance, and that makes each of them unique. So what makes NFTs even more special is that it takes this to a whole different level, and it creates this sanctity of digital ownership that didn't otherwise exist. Because as a lot of the panelists and I have said already, even when it comes to things like legal ownership, you go to some of the developing countries around Singapore, and you take your supposed title deed and you go there, and then the land register says, no, you don't own this. Somebody else, well, technically stole your property a couple of years ago, and it's pretty common, especially with illiterate farmers and that sort of thing. It happens a lot more than you would think. And sometimes they don't steal the whole property. They might take certain easements. They might clip certain corners, and this thing happens. I won't say it's rampant, but I can tell you that it is an endemic problem. So with NFTs, you're saying that, look, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this problem. The same way cryptocurrency said, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being unbanked. I'm going to be a bank of me. And NFTs is, I'm sick and tired of relying on centralized, trusted third parties who can't even do their damn job. I'm going to rely on software and I'm going to rely on code. So I think that to me is the key takeaway from NFTs. And you know what? Good luck. I hope you do make a whole bunch of money speculating on NFTs.
It's fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure. I like to learn some more details because the devil is on details. So thank you, Eric Mav, the BTCU, for empowering this. Thank you, Patrick, for your generosity and as well wisdom. Prashant, good luck for the work you're doing. I know that you're doing a force of nature over there in India, but as well worldwide. And as well, Javed, good luck with these properties, and as well I'm looking forward to see the first really NFT marketplace on that with you and BTCU. And of course, I'm legal disclosure, I'm involved, but I'm actually looking forward as well because I think it's key. And I think, like Patrick said, let's have some fun, but let's be wise. Let's not try to be stupid here, because I think a lot of these things is, of course, if you win easy, like they say, easy come, easy go. So just be wise and of course have fun, but at the same time, in these days, especially with everything happening in crypto that went to completely crazy scale, I would say that everyone that has been in crypto for the last couple of years, like all of us have, I think everyone should be happy because it went from nothing to these crazy numbers, and JP Morgan is still saying that it goes to 200,000, and NFTs are right now from Weekend to Mick Jagger to all the biggest personalities in the world are involved on this. So it's not like just some kind of crazy guys in the garage. So we are all part of this. Let's make it, like you said, Eric, a community that is useful and as well empowering, but as well some wisdom and some common sense as well, like Javed said, and I think Prashant as well. Okay, so thank you so much. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate your time. Thank you all the people that stayed until almost 2 hours. This has been a marathon. And, well, looking for the next one. I'm looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinis. Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Have a great day, everyone.